Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 44th episode of Don't Forget the Popcorn. Today, we are going to be reviewing Wes Anderson's new film, Asteroid City. So, anyone who's familiar with Wes Anderson as a director, writer, auteur, we all know this man is synonymous with style, okay? Wes has crafted a style that has been his own over the last, 20 or so years. Actually, probably getting closer to 30 now. And it's one of the most beautiful and brilliant styles we've seen in modern filmmaking. Wes can be lumped in with the Tarantinos of the world, the Paul Thomas Andersons of the world. He's very much a start to finish director. He's involved in every part of the process, artistically, writing, everything. And I love Wes for it. Wes has been definitely one of my favorite directors, over the last few years. He's put out some really great films. And Asteroid City is a good movie. It's a good movie, but it's not a great movie. And I don't think I would lump it in with Wes's top dogs, the Grand Budapest, the Royal Tenenbaums and films like that. I wouldn't put it in that category. Now, when I saw this movie, I saw it a few days ago, and when I left the theater, I really didn't know how I felt. I wasn't in love with it. Um, Obviously, there was plenty to admire about the film, but I was not in love with it upon my first watch. But after I sat on it for a few days and thought about it more and the themes and things like that, I started to realize this film is good and it's absolutely worth a watch. But guys, this is far from a perfect film. This is far from a perfect film. First things first, let's talk about some of my issues with the film. Now, the film Asteroid City is a small little town out in the West. I'm not even sure what state it is, but this movie's set in the 50s and it's got a bunch of characters. A bunch of characters. You got every freaking actor you can think of is in this movie in one form or another. Asteroid City as a town is the site of where an asteroid is landed. And you get a very eclectic group of people all coming to this town for one reason or another. And they all kind of get stuck here or quarantined here essentially. And a lot of interesting, funny things happen in this film. Now, I'm not going to give anything away. This is going to be a very spoiler-free review because I do think everyone should check this movie out. I'm very excited to watch it again myself so I can properly analyze it and go over it a little bit better. Asteroid City, though, it stars, well, I'd say the main characters in this film are Jason Schwartzman and Scarlett Johansson, and I loved both of their characters. This film almost feels like a collection of a few of his different movies all wrapped into one. It gave me Life Aquatic vibes. It gave me Moonrise Kingdom vibes. It even gave me some Grand Budapest vibes and even a hint of Royal Tenenbaums. There's a lot of different things in this film. This film is littered with symbolism. It's got a lot of themes. There is quite a bit going on in the film. There's a lot of characters. But overall, I think it does blend up nicely. But one thing is, with so many characters, it can kind of distract the watcher. This is going to be a hard film for a lot of people to take in on the first viewing. I'm still processing it myself. There's a lot of different things going on within the film, within the characters. There's a lot of side relationships, a lot of, close interpersonal relationships with certain characters. And, upon first watching, it'd be a lot to follow. But that's Wes's style. Wes is known for his ensemble cast. He is known for, big collections of actors all doing different things and, it all kind of blending into this one overall story. And you got that same thing going on here with Asteroid City. One of my issues is, though, I think that the film slightly suffers from just a little too much going on. Like I said, there's a ton of characters, a lot of different storylines. I think I would have enjoyed this more had he focused on like one or two. And I wish he would have focused more on Scarlett Johansson and Jason Schwartzman's character and then their kids, because their kids are in this movie and they play a significant role. I think it would have been smart move to really center everything around them. I mean, I guess it kind of is centered around those characters, but it strays away a while and you get a lot of other stuff going on here. And I'm not going to give away any of the big reveals because this film is, in a weird way, a sci-fi movie. And, we've never really seen a sci-fi movie from Wes. So, Wes, this is a Wes Anderson take on sci-fi. All right, and I'm not gonna get into why, because this is something you need to watch the film for. But the movie, it paces nicely. The film is gorgeous. Okay, it's got all, if you like Wes's style, you will like this movie. It's got all the cool set pieces, pretty colors, interesting little details. The details this man puts into these films. It's like he fine-tooth combs everything in these movies. Everything. He knows exactly where each little figurine, miniature, everything is in place. And that is so beautiful. And I respect him for it. And his attention to detail is just second to none. But Asteroid City, to me, I wish it was more of a honed in story. Although I did enjoy the story. I'll tell you guys this. There's a play within the movie, there's a play within a play almost. You got to watch the film to understand what I'm talking about. But Wes does do a nice job of blending in kind of real and fake with what's going on here in the story. And it's cool because it's a different thing for Wes to do in a film. And I thought it was interesting how he did that. And it was fun to go back and forth between the two different things going on in the film. But I could see that being distracting to a lot of people. And like I said, everyone is in this movie. Everyone is in this movie. Like I already mentioned, Scarlett Jason, Edward Norton, Tom Hanks, Steve Carell, what's his name? Jeffrey Wright, Tilda Swinton, who is amazing. You got Maya Hawke in here. There's so many, Margot Robbie. There's so many actors in this movie. It's absolutely nuts how many people he got in this movie. Jeff Goldblum. There's so many people in here. And I think this movie suffers from that a little bit. And obviously, this is not the first time that he's used this many big name actors in here. I forgot my boy Adrian Brody, who I love. He's back. Wes, all the Wes regulars are in here, with the exception of Bill Murray. But if you look at like the Grand Budapest Hotel, one thing I think he did well with that is he almost pulled an Infinity War style where, yes, you have a ton of characters, but Ray Fiennes was still the center of it all. Everything still revolved around him and went through him. And I like that. And I guess you could say the same with maybe Jason Schwartzman's character, but it doesn't feel like that in this movie. It kind of feels a little bit all over the place, a little scatterbrained. But that's not too big of an issue. The setting in this movie, it's pretty much set in this one town, this one little town with a very small population. It's got it's got all the Wes things in it that you would love about a Wes movie. But it is a kind of a claustrophobic film because everything, it does take place in this small little square of a town. And one thing I think he did do right is he still made this movie pretty funny. Wes has been known for his comedy. Pretty much all of Wes Anderson movies are like drama comedies or whatever, what may have you. And this movie was funny. I won't say it's as funny as some of his other films. I do think some of the humor did fall a little bit short, but I think the humor that did worked well. There were some funny little things in the movie that I laughed at, little Easter eggs and a couple little quirky, funny lines. But I will not say it's his funniest film, but I did, quite a few people were laughing in the theaters. Wes is the master of creating a world, and this feels like a world that you're in. But with this film, for me personally, I didn't feel so immersed in the world like I usually do in a Wes movie. When I watch a Wes movie, I'm lost for 2 hours. I'm usually lost. My head is gone. I am in this world. I feel like a fixture in this world. And I didn't get that from this movie. I truthfully can't say why that is, but it just didn't work for me. And I don't know if it was the mindset or the mood I was in. Like I said, this requires another viewing for me. But overall, the negatives in the movie aren't too bad, but I gotta say, it doesn't hit the beats as hard as Wes films normally do. And another thing about it is There was a few parts that I personally found kind of boring. There were some parts that were more fun than others, but there were some parts that I found boring. But guys, having said all that, I can't say too much negative about the film because off of just one viewing, I don't think, it's fair for me to properly judge this movie or say, it's lacks this or lacks that. I'm just telling you how I felt strictly off of a first viewing. It didn't grab me like most Wes films do, but it held tight. Uh, but there are some good things about this movie, and one thing I gotta say that I loved, even though he doesn't play a major role in this movie, I gotta say, Tom Hanks ate this Wes dialogue up, man. He chewed it up and he spit it out beautifully. I love Tom Hanks in this movie, and I think Tom Hanks is a very great actor. He's not one of my personal favorites. I think he's one of the best to ever do it, but he's not one of my personal favorites. But I did really enjoy him in this film. Jason Schwartzman, he's been killing it lately, man. He just came off a spot from Spider-Man. He's got this West movie. He's been working, man. He's been doing some great work, and he was great in this film. I gotta say, this is probably one of the better Scarlett Johansson performances we've seen in a little bit. Scarlett is maturing and aging so nicely as her career goes on. She is becoming more refined with each film. She really feels like she's hit that stride where it's like no matter what she does, it's going to be at least decent. Even if the movie sucks, Scarlett's probably gonna bring it for you. And she does that. Her and Jason Schwartzman's chemistry in this movie was A1 off the charts. I loved it. And I wanted more of that. I wanted more interactions with them. I wanted to see them get a little bit closer because there's a lot of things implied between these two characters that you don't see in the film, or they'll show you a little light version of it. But I kind of wish they would have went in more with it. I wish they would have dialed in more with those two characters because I think they were the strongest characters in the film. Steve Carell filled in nicely for Bill. He had a nice little part, and he was cute. He was cool. Steve Carell is still Steve Carell. He's still the man. Of course, you got the West regulars in there: Ed Norton, Adrian Brody, there and there, and it looks like Jeffrey Wright's becoming a West regular now. I think he's done what, this is his second West movie now, I believe, after The French Dispatch. He's starting to he eats up West dialogue too. He doesn't have a major big role but his impact is felt for the little bit that he's in there. The characters that he used sparingly, he did use them well, but a lot of them I wanted to see a lot more from. But at the same time, I kind of wish he would have just cut some of these characters and focus a lot more on a couple different aspects of the movie. Kind of like in Moonrise Kingdom. Moonrise Kingdom had one big main story arc, with a little side story arc going on with Frances McDormand and Bruce Willis's characters. But Moonrise Kingdom had a big overarching story, and I like that. And I think Asteroid City would have benefited from that as well. But that's not to say that Wes didn't do a good job with writing this movie, because he did. It's still some good writing. Wes is still a great writer. Wes hasn't lost his touch. When you got an auteur like this, somebody who's brought in us some of the coolest things ever put to film, everything they make isn't going to knock your socks off. It gets tough to keep following up these great films. And I mean, a lot of people didn't like his last release with The French Dispatch. I thought it was good. I thought it was decent. But I will say it's not one of my favorite Wes movies. But it still was a pretty solid outing. And I will say the same thing about Asteroid City. It's a solid outing. The ending, it's a nice conclusive ending. And I think it gives you a nice warm feeling at the end, and it leaves you with hope. And I think the third act is quite strong in this movie. I think the third act is where the movie's heart and soul lies, where the meat is. And like I said, there's some cool things in here I'm not going to spoil and give away. There's some fun little sci-fi aspects of it that I'm not going to give away. I do think that people should check out this movie. But Wes Anderson, as a director, as an auteur, as a writer, as he's getting older, I'm sure he feels like he said it all. I feel like, I'm sure this movie resonates with Wes in his childhood in one way or another. I'm sure this movie has some significance to his childhood or things that he was into, especially based on the little kids in this film and how they're the young stargazers, as they call them, these very intelligent young kids who are competing in this essentially a science fair. And I'm sure Wes probably felt like those kids when he was growing up, getting into film and making these films. So I feel like that was a slight representation of him as a child, and I like that aspect. I think he wrote this movie well, and like I said, the more I've sat on it and thought about it, the more I tend to like it. The more I'm thinking about it, and I am excited for it to stream so I can watch it again. But guys, I will say that this is not a perfect film. Like I said, there were some parts I did find boring. There were some parts that, I felt like it could have been changed up a little bit or even possibly left on the cutting room floor. I still can't say this is a bad movie. Where does it stack up in Wes's filmography? It probably falls somewhere to the end of the middle. I liked it more than The French Dispatch, I'll say that. But it's not, like I said, it's not the Grand Budapest Hotel, it's not the Royal Tenenbaums, but I think this is one of those films, kind of like Life Aquatic. Life Aquatic wasn't a hit when it came out. People didn't love Life Aquatic when it came out. It took Life Aquatic some time for people to really catch on and figure out the magic and beauty of it, because I love Life Aquatic. I think it's one of his best films, but it was not looked at like that upon its release. It actually isn't critically praised like some of his other films are. It isn't considered one of his best, but people who like Life Aquatic, they like Life Aquatic. So I think this could have Life Aquatic potential, a few years down the line. So like I said, it definitely deserves another viewing for me before I can really, really say where it lies in his filmography. So, but overall, Asteroid City, it's a funny, fun time, coming of age story. It deals with themes of loss. It deals with themes of being an outcast. It deals with finding someone who understands you and understanding you for your differences. It still hits the strong beats and themes that most Wes Anderson films hit. A lot of his films deal with young love, deal with coming of age, growing up, dealing with being an outcast and being different. And this film hits all those beats. Like I said, Asteroid City is a culmination. All his films are a culmination that led to a film like this and then lead him to want to write something like this. So if you are a Wes Anderson fan, you will like this movie. It may not be your favorite Wes Anderson movie, but you will appreciate it and you'll be excited to watch it again once that time comes for you in your life, just like I am. So overall, I am going to give Asteroid City a 7.4 out of 10. Guys, thank you so much for watching my Asteroid City review. Let me know if there's a film you'd like me to review below in the comments. Do your boy a solid, like and subscribe, hit the like button. Guys, I will be back next week, and don't forget the popcorn.